Right now, the Comex exchange is facing a mathematical impossibility that the mainstream media is too afraid to report. Today is Friday, February 27th, first notice day, and the masks are officially coming off. We have 500 million ounces of paper claims currently staring down a vault that contains just 88 million ounces of registered silver. That is nearly 6 paper receipts for every single physical bar left in New York. While the smart money like Samsung and the Russian central bank are bypassing the exchanges to lock up physical supply, retail investors are being told by big banks to be cautious. Today, we are exposing the exact data that shows why the paper silver market isn't just bending, it's breaking, and why the $90 level is the last stop before the physical reality of this 67 million ounce deficit overrides the paper price forever. It's Friday, February 27th, New York time, and the math problem has finally arrived. The Comex window for physical delivery has officially opened, and the numbers don't add up. Drop your date and city in the comments. I want to see who's watching this vault drain in real time. If you're tired of the mainstream fluff and want the cold, hard data, hit subscribe and drop George News below. It's the only way to keep this research independent. Now, let's get into this, because what I'm about to show you is not speculation. This is data. Cold, hard, documented numbers that paint a picture Wall Street does not want you to see clearly. Let's start with a number, 346 million. That is how many ounces of registered silver were sitting inside Comex vaults back in 2020. Write that number down. Now here's the one that should make your stomach drop. 88 million. That is approximately how many ounces of registered silver remain in those same vaults today, in February 2026. We have watched 75% of Comex's registered silver inventory quietly disappear in just 5 years. And almost nobody in mainstream finance is talking about it. But before we go deeper, I need to make sure you understand something critical, because most retail investors get this completely wrong. There are 2 types of silver that sit inside Comex warehouses. The first type is called eligible silver. This is silver that meets the exchange's quality standards. It's sitting in the vault, it's the right purity, the right bar size, but it has not been made available for delivery on a futures contract. Think of it like a car parked in a lot that the owner hasn't listed for sale yet. It exists, but it's not yours to buy today. The second type, and this is the one that actually matters for our story, is called registered silver. This is the silver that has been specifically designated and made available for physical delivery. When someone holds a futures contract and says, "I want my silver, give it to me," registered silver is what they get. Or more accurately, it's what they're supposed to get. And right now, there are only about 88 million ounces of it left. That distinction between eligible and registered is the difference between silver that exists somewhere and silver that is actually on the table. Remember that because it becomes everything in a few minutes. Now here's where it gets interesting, and I mean dangerously interesting. Today, February 27th, is what's called First Notice Day for March Comex silver futures contracts. Let me explain what that means in plain English. When you buy a futures contract on Comex, you're making a legal agreement to either receive or deliver a specific quantity of silver at a specific price on a specific date. First Notice Day is the first day that a seller of that contract can formally notify the exchange that they intend to deliver physical silver. And for buyers holding contracts through this date, it means they may be on the hook to actually take delivery of real physical silver bars. Most paper traders never do. They roll their contracts forward or close them out before it comes to this. But today, that window has officially opened. And here's the number that should make every silver watcher sit up straight. Open interest in March silver futures contracts right now sits at roughly 500 million ounces, against only about 110 million ounces of registered silver available for delivery. You do that math, that's approximately 5 paper claims for every single physical bar that actually exists on Comex. 5 people holding a receipt for the same silver bar. That's not a market, that's a time bomb. Stick with me here because this next part is critical. And to understand where we are today, you need to understand what happened just 4 weeks ago. On January 29, 2026, silver did something it had never done in all of recorded financial history. It broke through $100 per troy ounce for the very first time, rocketing all the way to an all-time high of $121.67. Think about that. Silver had never, not in ancient Rome, not during the Hunt brothers squeeze of 1980, not ever, traded above $100 an ounce. And then it did. And then, within just a matter of days, it crashed. Violently. Silver plummeted nearly 40%, collapsing from that $121 peak all the way down to near $70 per ounce. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent publicly called it a speculative blow-off driven largely by Chinese traders. And yes, speculation played a role. But here's what that crash actually revealed. When paper silver and physical silver are priced the same way on the same exchange, a paper-driven crash can drag physical prices down with it, temporarily. The paper market controls the price signal, but it cannot conjure real silver bars out of thin air. And that gap between paper price and physical reality is exactly what is widening right now, quietly, as silver climbs back. Because here's where we stand today. As of this morning, silver is trading in the range of $87 to $91 per ounce. It's recovered significantly from that $70 low. And when you zoom out, really zoom out, the numbers are staggering. Silver is up over 162% in the past year. It's up more than 23% just since January 1st. This recovery, this quiet, steady climb back toward $90, is in many ways more significant than the January spike. The spike was dramatic. This is structural. The market is rebuilding, and it's doing it on a foundation that the smart money is paying very close attention to. Now let's talk about why the physical demand story isn't going away, because this is the part that makes silver different from almost every other commodity on Earth. Silver isn't just a monetary metal, it's an industrial metal. And the industries consuming it right now are the fastest growing industries on the planet. According to Silver Institute data, industrial demand now represents over 50% of total silver consumption globally, and that share is growing. Solar panels require silver. Electric vehicles require silver. In their charging systems, their circuit boards, their battery management systems. And now, here's the one most people haven't connected yet. AI data centers require silver. The high-efficiency electrical infrastructure powering artificial intelligence computation uses silver in its connectors, its cooling systems, its advanced semiconductors. We are building the digital future out of silver, and the world doesn't fully realize it yet. Now, there is one nuance to acknowledge here. Solar-specific silver demand is projected to dip about 7% this year as panel manufacturers work to reduce silver content per unit. That's real, but it's being more than offset by the acceleration in automotive and AI infrastructure demand. The overall industrial consumption trend is not reversing, it's deepening. But wait, there's more to this story. Because while demand is structurally climbing, supply is doing something very different. Mexico is the world's largest silver-producing nation. In 2024 alone, Mexico produced 202.6 million ounces of silver. That's a massive slice of global supply. And right now, Mexico is in serious trouble. Civil unrest, escalating cartel activity, and instability in key mining regions are creating real disruptions to supply chains that flow out of that country. And even setting Mexico aside, the global mining industry has chronically underinvested in silver exploration and new mine development for over a decade. New silver mines take between 10 and 15 years to move from discovery to full production. You cannot simply flip a switch and make more silver appear. The pipeline is thin, and the demand side of this equation is accelerating. That is a structural supply deficit that does not resolve quickly. And now the geopolitical layer. Russia, one of the world's major military and economic powers, is quietly executing a multi-year plan to accumulate $535 million worth of physical silver into its national reserves. Let that land for a moment. This is the first major central bank in the modern era to openly and systematically add silver to its reserve holdings. Central banks buy gold. That has been the rule for decades. When a major nation-state starts accumulating silver at scale, that is a signal that sophisticated state-level actors see something in this metal that goes beyond a simple trade. They are treating silver as a strategic reserve asset. That is a watershed moment, and most people watching mainstream financial news have no idea it's happening. And then there's what the tech giants are doing. Companies like Samsung aren't waiting for Comex to figure out its delivery math. They are bypassing the exchange entirely, going directly to mining operations and locking up silver supply through private, long-term contracts, securing 100% of a mine's output in some cases for multiple years in advance. Think about what that means. The most sophisticated technology companies on Earth, companies with armies of analysts and billions in resources, have looked at this market and decided they cannot rely on the exchange to have silver available when they need it. They are acting as if a shortage is not a risk, but a certainty, and they are positioning accordingly. Now, I want to address something directly. JP Morgan's analyst Greg Shearer recently issued a cautious note on silver, warning that he is more cautious on re-engaging in silver in the near term, until the recent froth in prices clears. And look, I want to be fair. That caution is not without some basis. We did see a speculative spike. There is real volatility here. But I also want you to think critically about something. Big banks have a documented history of talking down silver. JP Morgan itself paid over $920 million in fines in 2020 for years of manipulating precious metals futures markets. So when a major bank tells you to be cautious about silver right now, right at the moment when the physical squeeze math is most alarming, I'm not saying they're lying. I'm saying you should weigh that against everything else we've just walked through, and decide for yourself who is best positioned to benefit from retail investors staying on the sidelines. So what happens next? Here's what the data is telling us. 2 scenarios. The first, a Comex delivery squeeze. If enough futures holders on first notice day actually demand physical delivery of their silver, and the registered inventory cannot cover those claims, the exchange faces an impossible situation. Prices would not just rise, they would explode. We could see a move that makes January's $121 high look like a warm-up. The second scenario, a controlled grind. Most contract holders roll their positions. Comex manages the delivery math with eligible silver reclassification, and silver consolidates in the $80 to $95 range for weeks or months before the next structural leg higher. Both of these are plausible. Neither is a guarantee. What I will tell you is that the medium and long-term trajectory, driven by supply deficits, industrial demand, geopolitical accumulation, and a broken paper market, points in one direction. This isn't just about making money. It's about understanding how the financial system actually operates. Who controls the price signals? Who benefits from keeping retail investors confused? And why knowing the difference between a paper claim and a real silver bar matters more today than it has in decades. You now know something that 99% of people watching mainstream financial media do not. What you do with that knowledge is entirely up to you. Subscribe, drop a comment, George News, and I'll see you in the next one.